Okay, so something truly wild happened in the last week of February 2026. The world saw a massive new peace initiative get launched. At the very same moment, a brand new war was declared. How is that even possible? How can these two things happen at the same time? Well, let's get into it.
So get this. In Washington, a new global body called the Board of Peace is holding its very first meeting, all about rebuilding Gaza. At the same time, halfway across the world, the US and Israel are launching Operation Epic Fury, this huge military campaign against Iran. Now, this was not some kind of coincidence. This was a strategy. And to really understand what's going on, you have to look at the new institutions that are making it all happen.
And to understand that paradox, we have got to start with the centerpiece of this whole strategy, this really controversial new organization called the Board of Peace.
So, the board's first big job is a plan for post-war Gaza. And Phase 2 of this plan got the green light in January 2026. What triggered it? Well, it happened right after Hamas returned the remains of the final hostage from the October 7th attacks. That fulfilled a huge condition of the ceasefire and, basically unlocked this next stage, a whole new kind of governance.
In this plan, wow, it is incredibly ambitious. I mean, we're talking about completely remaking Gaza's government and its security from the ground up. You've got a new transitional government, the disarmament of Hamas, full Israeli withdrawal, the works. But the real story here isn't just the plan itself. It's the new and extremely powerful institutions that were created to make sure it happens.
So on the ground, a new committee of Palestinian technocrats, they call it the NCAG, is now in charge of all the day-to-day stuff. This group, led by Dr. Ali Shaath, is made up entirely of experts. There are no members from political factions like Hamas or Fatah. And what's the goal there? Well, the idea is to bypass all the political gridlock and actually get things done.
And handling security, that falls to a new International Stabilization Force, or ISF. But listen, don't think of these folks as your typical blue helmet UN peacekeepers. No way. This is a coalition force, and they have a UN mandate to use all necessary measures. But here is the key difference. They don't answer to the UN Security Council, they answer directly to the Board of Peace. And with a US general in command, their #1 job is to disarm Hamas.
So who's really pulling the strings here? The structure of the board itself, well, it reveals a radical departure from pretty much any international body we've ever seen before. The board has this really strict hierarchy. At the very top, you have a tiny, super powerful executive board. They set the entire agenda. Below them is a larger body of member nations, and then at the bottom is the Palestinian Technocrat Committee, which, and this is crucial, has no seat on either of the boards above it.
And at the very, very top of this whole structure, power is concentrated in one person. The board's charter literally names Donald J. Trump chairman for life. And this isn't tied to his role as U.S. president, it's a personal appointment. He holds a permanent veto, and he can only be removed by a unanimous vote of an executive board that he appointed himself.
And who's sitting on this incredibly powerful executive board? Well, it's a tight circle of close political allies and business titans. You've got Jared Kushner, of course, the architect of the Abraham Accords. You've got former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. You've got real estate magnate Steve Witkoff, and even the president of the World Bank, Ajay Banga. So this isn't just a political body. It's a complete fusion of state power and private capital.
So how do other countries get a seat at this table? Well, it's not about consensus or diplomacy or geography. It's transactional. Any nation can buy a permanent seat on the Board of Peace for the price tag of $1 billion.
As you can imagine, this pay-to-play model has just split the international community right down the middle. On one side, you have 27 nations who've bought in, including key regional players like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. But on the other side, you have a lot of traditional Western allies. We're talking France, Germany, the UK, who've all said no. Their big fear is that this isn't about supplementing the UN, it's about replacing it.
So it's probably no surprise that this radical new body has been met with two completely opposite interpretations. And that's created this fierce debate about what it truly represents.
Supporters see the board as a nimble and effective tool for peace. The argument is that by bypassing the, endless bureaucracy of the UN, it can actually deliver what really matters: stability, security, and a real path to prosperity for Gaza.
But the critics? They see a much, much darker agenda. They're calling it colonial administration and disaster capitalism. They argue this isn't about rebuilding Gaza for Palestinians at all, but about selling off its future to the highest bidder, denying any real self-determination. In their view, it's not a partnership,
It's a hostile takeover.
And this right here is the central question, isn't it? Is this a brand new, efficient model for peacebuilding, or is it a new form of colonial control just dressed up in the language of reconstruction? The answer really depends entirely on who you ask. Which brings us right back to that opening paradox. Because just as the board was rolling out its grand plans for peace in Gaza, the drums of war were beating louder than louder with Iran, creating this incredible geopolitical whiplash.
And the speed at which this all unfolded is just staggering. On February 18th, the Board of Peace has its first meeting. Just 8 days later, nuclear talks with Iran completely collapse. The very next day, the U.S. gives Israel the green light for a strike. And 48 hours after that, the war begins.
And make no mistake, this was not some limited strike. Operation Epic Fury was a massive campaign designed to absolutely cripple Iran. The goals were crystal clear: annihilate its navy, destroy its missile industry, and decapitate its military and political leadership by hitting targets all across the country.
So, what does it all mean? Are these two giant events, the Board of Peace and the war with Iran, totally contradictory? Or are they two sides of the very same coin?
Well, from the administration's point of view, this is a dual-track strategy. The peace plan and the war, they aren't contradictory at all. They're two parts of a whole. The war with Iran is the enforcement mechanism. It's the strength that makes the peace in Gaza possible. It's designed to create the security conditions, by force, for the board's entire plan to succeed.
And this leaves us with a pretty provocative final question. Are we witnessing the dawn of a new executive globalism? A new world order where peace is no longer negotiated by consensus, but is instead dictated by a powerful few and enforced by overwhelming military might? The answer to that question could very well define the rest of the 21st century.